Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Racha Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is Various Topics, dated November 12th, 2022, the year of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai turning up. And pretty much I don't really have anything to go into that, not much to go into, so I'm just going to rely totally on the Spirit to feed me, to bring out a lesson. But I was started watching it last night, and then I finished watching it this morning, the video that Elder Apostle Tahar did concerning, Elder Tazariak, Captain Tazariak. I believe Priest Anyala was on there, Ron Dalton, and others. And pretty much, as the Apostle was saying, you have this individual by the name of Ron Dalton Jr., who, like he said, we've known about him. We've known about those videos or the movies or documentaries that he put out. But the problem is that the man is confused, and there was a point where Apostle Tahar mentioned about, people that watch his movies and are not grounded are going to get confused. So Lord's will use that as a catapult into this truth or into this lesson, because that is the truth. People are gonna get, they're gonna get confused because they don't know what's going on. They're just basing what they learning off of the research that this man has done, and not all research out there is good research. You have research, you have the Spirit, the Holy Spirit working with you. You have empirical evidence, which is evidence that can be physically proven, but then you have speculative research. And this is why I pulled up this quote here called "History is the lie commonly agreed upon," which is a quote from a French philosopher by the name of Voltaire. And pretty much the ones that are in control pretty much control the narrative of what's being painted out here today. That's why if anything goes against them, they demonize them by using an anti-Sem card. Just bear with me 1 second. I'm just trying to pull up this quote from the movie 1984, and pretty much we have it here because I just recently watched the beginning of it. Pretty much it says here, matter of fact, let me go to images, pull up an image of it. Let me see. Here we go. Let's get this one here. It says here, whoever controls the image and information of the past determines what and how future generations will think. Whoever controls the information and images of the present determines how those people will view the past. He who controls the past commands the future. He who commands the future conquers the past. George Orwell. And pretty much it's heavy how he put out not only information, the ones that control the information, but also control the image, which is what it's painted in people's minds. That's why the world today is under the vibration that, the Heavenly Father and His Son are so-called white people, and they're not. They're so-called black men, woolly hair, wide nose, dark brown skin, and the majority of the world is under the vibration of, that white, so-called white God and white Jesus. Yeah, like the brother put up, the precept be put up here, 2 Corinthians 4:3. But if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost. And those are facts. And they're lost. Why? Because there are a lot of stumbling blocks out here, pitfalls and traps. And those pitfalls and traps have been used to ensnare the people of the Most High. But to be taken by, the wiles of Esau. Let's go real quick to Psalms chapter 10. Let's start at the first verse. It says, Why standest thou far off, O Yahweh Bashem Yahushai? Why hidest thou thyself in times of trouble? Yeah, because these devils are about to turn up. Remember, this is the year of the turn up. And the Lord is turning up on both sides, the right side and the left side. So I believe this was a Psalm of David. He's asking the Lord, why is he hiding himself in times of trouble? Because we need the Lord now more than ever. And we're going to need him even more as these things progress. It says, the wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. And that's exactly what they do. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined, because they have crafty devices that they're trying to put into place. And this is why the Apostle Paul said that we are not ignorant of Satan's how does that go? Let's go to it. 2 Corinthians chapter 2. You could quote a verse in the scriptures a million times, and sometimes you just can't remember it. It says 2 Corinthians 2:11, at least Satan should get an advantage of us. See? Get an advantage over us, meaning the upper hand. For we are not ignorant of his devices. Let's look up the word devices here in the New Testament, but let's go back to Psalms and let's get this. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined, because what they've done is they've laid out traps in the world today, that have been going back for centuries, since they've been in power. Remember the scriptures say that the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. So the word there for device in Psalms 10 is mazamah. Purpose, discretion, device, plot, right? And it's a plot. And when you speak about these things, the first thing that comes out of their mouth, or out of people's mouth, is conspiracy theorists, because this is how they've been trained. The media that you see out there, the mass media, has been bought and paid for long time ago. When you go back to the origins of the CFR, which is the Council on Foreign Relations, which is one of their main groups that they use to push forward this New World Order agenda, the very first thing they did when they were established in 1921 was buy up all form of media, newspapers, magazines, radio. And this is what they do. They get into the influences, of whatever disseminates or pushes out information. They take control of it, and they control that narrative. That's why they control Hollywood. They control everything. The Diamond District, all sorts of information going out, news channels. They own that. Newspapers, whatever it is, and the only thing that, we rely on the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, but you also have alternative media. But even some of those alternative media are very, deceptive, because they say alternative media, but some of them guys are even insiders. Remember, you have controlled opposition. And by certain things that certain of those individuals say, you question, I don't know, that seems a little fishy to me, So it's a plot, a discretion, because they're doing it, in secret. That's why the King David also said, hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked. And this is what they're planning on doing. So going back, it says, let them be taken in the devices they have imagined, for the wicked boasteth of his heart's desire, and blesseth the covetous whom the Lord abhorreth, meaning the Most High avoids. He draws near to the humble, but he flees from the proud. It says the wicked, through the pride of his countenance, will not seek after the Most High. That's why they're trying to remove the Most High out of the picture. Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. The Most High is not in all his thoughts. His ways are always grievous, right? And they are grievous. This is why they write those, that legislation into law. That draconian style legislation into law, because the future that they're envisioning, or their utopian future that they're envisioning, is pretty much, a good place for them and a bad place for the masses of the people. especially the Israelites, because they want to do away with the Israelites, period. So-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, because we are the ones that stand in the way of their, birthright, of their, blessing, because our forefather, Jacob, supplanted him for both, and they're trying to get it back, but they can't. But the thing is that the Heavenly Father set that up before the children were even conceived in the womb. That purpose was what already went back prior to the children even being born. So although Esau had the birthright by right, of the firstborn, it was never theirs to begin with. And the Lord set it up for Jacob to be able to get it. And you can read the history about that. This is a very interesting history, the way it all went down. From the blessing, the birthright to the blessing. I say it that way because the birthright was sold first, then the blessing was supplanted. Well, supplanted both times. So it says, thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffeth at them. He hath said in his heart, I shall not be moved, for I shall never be in adversity. Right, and this goes hand in hand with Isaiah 47. It goes hand in hand with Revelation 18, where they think they're going to be a lady forever. They think that they're going to sit on that throne forever. And they've expanded their forces and their power, so far throughout the planet that they, in their mind, they're looking at it as impossible for them to fail, impossible for them to lose, impossible for them, to be taken over by another nation, because of the amount of power, and influence that they've gathered throughout the planet Earth. But this is the same thought that all of those other empires before them had. His mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity. That's why you can't trust anything that they say. Never trust an enemy. So the information you have out there, you have to be able to look at it through a spiritual lens. You got to be able to have, the spiritual mind to be able to discern through it. And this is why when we go to Hebrews, the 5th chapter, matter of fact, let's get that real quick. I wanted to get that other Hebrews 5. Let's get that. Let me just read this word for devices. I forgot to read it. This is in the New Testament. Noema, a mental perception, thought, an evil purpose. See, that's device. So we're not ignorant of Satan's devices. That which thinks, the mind, thoughts, or purposes. All right. So going back here, Hebrews 5:12, for the time you ought to be teachers, you have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of the Most High, right? Because you have to be grounded. You have to be settled. You heard Elder Pastor quote that scripture. You have to be grounded. You have to be settled. And in order to do that, you have to be taught properly. It says, and are become such as have need of milk and not of strong meat. So you have guys out there that are not, foundationally stable, and they're trying to eat meat, and they're throwing up all over the place, and then they have other people that are searching, that think they finally came up on something, but the research and the information is erroneous, but you're going to have stumbling blocks, whether inside the truth or outside the truth. It's just a sifting process. It's nothing personal. It's a sifting process, and, my personal opinion on it with Ron Dalton Jr. is he's already on a pedestal to where he's not ready to look back, unless he repents. And that is going to be very hard to do, especially now that he's in the position that he's in, because his whole Kyrie Irving situation that took place has elevated him, to a platform of about 2.4 billion people. So his numbers are going through the roof. And you know what happens when that happens. You start getting that prestige, you start getting that recognition, you start making that money, and the head swells more and more. Just bear with me 1 second. I want to try to see if I can pull this up. Hope I still got it. All right.
And I'm not saying it has to do with, everything that's going on, but the fact that this topic is 2.1 billion,
2.1 billion.
2.1 billion people have somewhat inadvertently heard about the movie, the issue, and then 2.1 billion people probably is like, well, let me go check this movie out, or let me do some research. Do you understand the ramifications of the truth finally coming out to the whole structure of society? Hold on. Now, it is supposedly said that someone said that the greatest threat to the unity of the West is Negro unity. Now, that's what they say that might be what happened. But we know when they say it might be, it probably happened. It probably happened. Look at this. FBI pressure to answer for the domestic spying on the Black Panthers. Because the biggest threat is a black man bringing the nations together. That's the biggest threat. The first Rainbow Coalition. There's a black fist in the middle of that. Bringing the nations together. I'm trying to tell you people, once the original people are restored and they've repented, we lead social trends. There are people overseas in Asian countries doing 1980s rap. That's like a fad. In Japan, there's a whole community of hip-hop Japanese kids. Like that's all they do. Imagine if it was, when it comes to the spiritual aspect and understanding who African Americans are genetically linked to. We heard you people are linked to Israel. Is this true? What is this movie? Let me do my research. Then we have a big problem. We have a massive problem on the structure of society, religion, and with truth. This is amazing. Do you know that H2N is trending massively? Oh man, I keep telling y'all that blood moon was gonna change things. It's oh boy.
Yeah, so now you know. So I mean, he was, and that is true, because the so-called black man is the head, but what he is not it's not really the union of nations, it's the union of the nation of Israel, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, and they know that Judah, the so-called Negroes, are the biggest threat because that is the head tribe. Once the head tribe gets themselves together, or the Lord gets them together, then the rest of the tribes follow, because they are the trendsetters, and the Lord gave them that spirit, because the Most High himself is Judah. If the Most High was to come down here on the earth himself, which he can't because he's too powerful, he will come down in the form of a so-called black man, a Judite. All right, so you need to be taught all over again. Because strong meat, you cannot eat strong meat because you're not prepared for that. Now, you know what? I don't want to mess that up. Let me just get something else. Right? Let me bring up another quote. From the same movie. Let's see. All right, so let's get this one here. Right. And this is why it's causing such a stir. Now, you heard what he said. He said that this has reached 2.1 billion people. So that opened the door even more to Jake out there. And he said H2N, H2N, yeah, Hebrews to Negroes. That's the name of the book, movie. That's the acronym that they use. So that's opening the door even more. And Yahweh said, when this gospel shall be preached to the four corners of the earth, then the end shall come. And we're witnessing the truth being spread out there through different veins of social media, through the internet. So whether in pretense or in sincerity, the truth is taught, the Apostle Paul said he rejoices. Why? Because the word is still getting out there. Because it has to get out there for the believers and for the non-believers. So here, this other quote, which is attributed to George Orwell, says, in a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. And this is why the Apostle Paul said, am I become your enemy because I tell you the truth? So he's speaking about truth, and the truth makes a lot of enemies. And that's why this truth that we speak and we teach is such a threat to the establishment, to the status quo, what everybody's used to. Nobody wants change. They want everything to remain as it is because they want to be snug as a bug in a rug, as they say, But the Lord is the one that's causing this stir. He's stirring things up. That's why beautiful the brother put this precept up, Amos 9:9. For lo, I will command, and I will sift the house of Israel among all nations like as corn is sifted in the sieve. Yet shall not the least grain fall upon the earth. So the Lord is doing the sifting. That's why you see a whole lot of shaking going on, Inside joke. It's the name of a song, but it's the truth. So although the information is going out there, that information is flawed. So even if you do the research, you're going to run into snags. You're going to run into roadblocks unless the Spirit of the Lord removes those roadblocks and guides you through the maze of lies, just to be able to pick out the morsels of truth that you run across through that big field of lies, because the pickings are slim. When we go to the word research, right? The word research is the systematic investigation into and study of materials and sources in order to establish facts and reach new conclusions. Right. But now, how can you establish these facts and get the proper study if the material that's out there is flawed? Remember, what is it right here? History is a lie commonly agreed upon by Voltaire. And the ones that are in power are not going to they're not going to make it easy for you to get to the truth. That's why when you come into the knowledge, when you awoken to the knowledge, you Israelites out there, you have to be taught properly in order to be able to have that spiritual investigative mind. So when you do the research, this is crap and this is not. Like I typed in on Google, right? I typed in what age was Paul when he died, right? The Apostle Paul. Right? And it gave you like a roundabout, I want to just bear with me 1 second. Right, here we go. Just bear with me 1 second, Salakia. Okay, let me try this one. Let me see if this one comes up. Beautiful. Here we go. Beautiful. Here we go. Check this out. Right? And when I typed that other one in, you know what age was Paul? They said around 60, and they said that was a long life back then, you know, considering. But one of the things that came up, as you see here, how does Paul in the Bible die, you know, so on and so forth. This had actually came up. It says, where in the Bible is Paul's death? Answer, nothing. The book of Acts ends with Paul in Rome alive and preaching unfettered. Acts 28:30-31. In fact, neither Paul nor any of the 12 apostles' deaths after Judas are recorded in the New Testament, which that's not true. You see? But somebody that is not learned will read this and see, there's nobody, they don't talk about nobody's death. Well, wait a minute. What about Yahushua told the apostle Peter he was going to be hung upside down? You know, what about when Yahushua told the sons of Zebedee that they were going to drink of his cup? What about James in the book of Acts, the 12th chapter, that was slain by Herod? Is he not one of the 12? Is his death not recorded in the Bible? Yes, it is. You know, and he was about to take Peter, but the Lord had plans for Peter. It wasn't Peter's time yet. So this is why, for when the time you ought to be teachers, you have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of the Most High, and are become such as have need of milk and not of strong meat. For everyone that useth milk is unskillful in the word of righteousness. And, you know, the individual, Ron Dalton, he has said in another video Elder Pastor did that he was vexed, you know, because of the way things were. I'm just merely paraphrasing. And somehow the Spirit led him to Deuteronomy 28, and he read it, and he understood that was the curses. Come on, man. Come on. Come on. As long as this truth has been out there, and as the one of the main things that we speak about are the curses, Deuteronomy 28. You never heard that from any group or any Israelite group out there, whether it was the One West groups or others that stem from it. You never heard that? Come on, man. You know? Anyway, I digress. For he is a babe. Right, so if you use a milk, you're a babe. But strong meat belongeth to them that are of full age, meaning that they have their senses exercised. They have what's called experience. Experience, ex, out, perience, or peritus, to try. So put it together, to try out. Experience comes by trial, trying out. And that's how you gain experience. You know, it's a thing of, you know, there's a term for it. I can't think of the term right now, but you pretty much, that's how you learn. You learn, you know, by making mistakes. You know, it's a trial and error. There you go, a trial and error thing. You know, and that's how you learn. You know, it's not a crime to make a mistake. The crime is in not learning from your mistake. You know, it says even those who by reason of use, right, because they've been using the sources that the Lord gave them to elevate their mind to be able to. That's why it says in 2 Corinthians, we are not ignorant of Satan's devices. Have their senses exercised. Right. Have their senses exercised, meaning that their mental mind, their spiritual mental mind has been in gear. You know, reading, researching, knowing when something is right and when something is wrong. Just like this statement right here. You know, where in the Bible is Paul's death? And then it said that none of the 12 apostles' deaths are written in the New Testament. That's not true. All right. So even by reason of use have their senses exercised to what? To discern both good and evil. So you have to be able to discern both good and evil, because by what we read about research and how we and the people that are in control right now of the dissemination of information, and so much that's been being flooded out there. When you go to research, back in the days when we first started going on Google, you'll type in a couple of words and you'll have all reams and reams of information. But then remember, Google was taking over. I forgot, what was it, YouTube? No, Google took over YouTube or something like that. They started buying stuff out. That's what they do. And now when you type in things that you would type in 15 years ago, let's say 14 years ago, now along with that information that is, you have to search, through pages of it to find it. If you get lucky, the first things that come up are what? Oh, this is a fraud. No, this is a plagiarism. Oh, this is not true. This is a hoax. That's all the stuff that comes up first. Because they got it set in the algorithm that way. To when you're searching the truth, all this other bullshit comes in the way, because that's what they call denigration. That's what they're using to block, the way of truth. But if you are part of the elect, eventually the Lord is going to bust through that obscurity and bring you into the true light. All right. So that's it on that. So now, as the Apostle Elder Tar mentioned in this video, that those that watch these movies and read these books are going to be confused. So I looked up the word confusion, right? It says confusion, lack of understanding, uncertainty, the state of being bewildered or unclear in one's mind about something. Why? Because their information that they're receiving is not 100% accurate. And they don't have the spiritual capacity to be able to discern between something that's right or something that's wrong. Their mind has been open to a new world of understanding of who they are, biblically, but the parameters, and the hedge is not there. So they're out to pasture everywhere, they don't have anything there to help, guide them through that maze. So when we look at 1 Corinthians 14 and 33, right, it says, for the Most High is not the author of confusion, but of peace, as in all the churches, right? So I don't want to lose that. Let me bring this back here. Let's go to 1 Corinthians 1. Hold on to that. And then let's go to Ephesians 4 real quick and come back. All right. So when we go there, right, for the Most High is not the author of confusion, we go to the word confusion. The word there is akatastasia. Akatastasia. Instability. Right, which is what? Uncertainty. Why? Because there is a dark mist out there that's blocking you. So you're getting some truths, but then you're getting all kind of lies, and you don't have the spiritual choppers, so to speak, to pick through, bite the meat, and throw the bone out. Lack of understanding, uncertainty, the state of being bewildered or unclear in one's mind about something. Yeah, because when you're bewildered, you're befuddled, you're all messed up, you're all uncertain, you're children tossed to and fro and carried with every wind of doctrine. All right, as we're going to read in Ephesians. Instability, a state of disorder, disturbance, confusion. Right, so the Most High is not the author of confusion. He's very precise. He's very calculated. When you come into the true knowledge of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, your mind is at peace. You're serene. This is why Yahushai said, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. In Psalms 23:1, which is a psalm of David, it says, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. When you're lying down, that means you're at ease. You're in comfort. He leadeth me beside the still waters. Right. The still waters are peaceful, calmful, or peaceful and calm waters, which is this knowledge. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Right. So pretty much the mind is set at ease, at peace. So now when all of these the winds blow, the storms come, the rains pelt down on it, that person is solid because their foundation is built upon that rock, which is Yahweh Shai. Right? So, matter of fact, no, let me leave it there because I want to read that again. 1 Corinthians 1 and 10, it says, "Now I beseech you, brethren, by the name of our Lord Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, that you all speak the same thing." Right? Because if you're not speaking the same thing, you cannot call that unity. Like you have individuals in Israel that get together with different camps, call it a unity camp. That's not a unity camp. Unity means everyone is on the same accord, the same page, not just because you're Israelites. That's the beginning stage of it, but it's far beyond that. You have to be in one accord, spiritually, physically, mentally, teaching the same doctrine. Why? Because and that there be no divisions among you, because what that causes is division. Because imagine being out there speaking at the camp and somebody comes up and asks about Cornelius. And certain ones of them teach that Cornelius is an Edomite, and certain ones of them teach that Cornelius is an Israelite or another nation. What madness is that person going to receive? Because the burden or the answer that they're going to get is based off of what that one group believes that may be speaking at the time. And like the brother just put up, can two, Amos 3:3, can two walk together except they be agreed? So the people will leave out of there confused. And the others in that unity camp that don't believe that Cornelius is an Edomite will not say, "No, brother, you're wrong. He's an Israelite." Because it's about being PC. And that's something that's going on heavy in Israel among these different camps, that PC spirit. That's why when the young brother asked, Ron Dalton Jr. about the 12 tribes and how it hasn't been disproven, then Captain Cesaria quickly jumps up and says, "Oh, that's another subject, another topic." When you're dealing with, debates, right? Debates were not a controlled environment. Debates were done in the public, where one person say one thing, another person say another thing, and they would dispute it and go, and prove their points. And the one that had the proof would win. But in this society, especially in the Western world, it's always some controlled environment. Nope, you got 10 seconds, or you got 20 seconds, or you got 2 minutes, or you got 8 minutes to make your point and bring out your scriptures. That's not dealing in the spirit. That's not a real debate. That is a controlled debate of Esau. So it says, Paul at Athens, Acts 17 and 16. Now while Paul waited for them at Athens, his spirit was stirred in him when he saw the city wholly given to idolatry. Why? Because they were Israelites. Those that were there, they were Israelites. Did you have Edomites and other nations there? Of course. But the ones that the Apostle Paul was speaking to, they were Israelites. That's why his spirit was stirred in them. Because they were committing idolatry. So it says, therefore disputed he in the synagogue with the Jews and with the devout persons and in the market daily with them that met with him. When you go to the word market, this is where you get the word agora. Agora, an assembly, especially of the people, the place of assembly for public debating. It wasn't no controlled environment. This is why riots would break out in the ancient world. It was no controlled environment. So when Captain Tazariak did that, you have to question as why did he do that? And as we heard the video earlier, the individual said that this whole Kyrie Irving thing opened the H2N, which is the Hebrews to Negroes, up to an audience of 2.1 billion people. So that means that the numbers for that movie, those 3 movies, the books and all of that, is going through the roof. You know? So that means that this man's pockets, I don't know how fat they were, it doesn't matter. They're chunky, you know, or chunkier. So why did Tazariak say that or do that? You know? You have to question, you have to wonder. You never know nowadays. So, going back to 1 Corinthians, that there be no divisions among you, but that you be perfectly joined together, what? In the same mind and in the same judgment. Because there can't be no divisions, there can't be no schisms. Because as Yahushua said, a nation divided cannot stand. When we go to Ephesians 4:1, it says, I therefore, the prisoner of the Lord, beseech you that you walk worthy of the vocation wherewith you are called. Right, because we were called. Vocation means calling. So that we may walk worthy, because we were entrusted with this gospel, with this truth. And we are the defenders of the gospel. That's why we're the most hated group. Because every time some bullshit pops up, you know, you'll find great millstone there first through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, defending the gospel. Not taking no shorts. Not holding no bags. You know? And getting the most flack. Being suffering the false witnesses and slanders and lies being, you know, pushed upon them. So much so that now women, these so-called black women in social media, talking about hide your daughters from GMS men, your 9-year-old daughters. You know, there's a whole thread with black women, and I'm pretty sure you have simple-minded jakes in there talking shit, you know, about us. But that's all right. You got to pay for that. It says, with all lowliness and meekness, with long suffering, forbearing one another in love, endeavoring to keep the unity in the spirit and in the bond of peace, right? Because when you don't have unity, there's disorder. And the Most High is not the author of confusion or the author of disorder. Let's look up the word unity. The word there is henotes, unity, unanimity, agreement, right? Oneness, see? Oneness. When you have groups together just because you know you're Israelites, but you have different doctrines, that is not a unity camp. Unity does not mean just, you know, of the same people, of the same nation. That's the beginning of it. But the rest of it has to be, everybody has to be on the same accord, the same page. Otherwise, you have confusion. So it says, for there is one body and one spirit, even as you are called in one hope of your calling, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one power, and Father of all, who is above all and through all and in you all. All right? And when we jump down to the 14th verse, it says that we henceforth be no more children tossed to and fro and carried about with every wind of doctrine. You know, so if Jake is watching these, because like I said, 2.1 billion people were exposed newly on top of the ones that already knew about it. So that's more Israelites that are flocking to those movies, to those books, that are going to read that information and be confused because the information is not 100%. And this man is not, he is not stable, because there are still things, his ability to spiritually discern things is not fully exercised. And seeing that these doors are opening up for him, that could lead him down the path even further of destruction. Unless he repents, because the Lord is marvelous, man. The Lord is you know, something else. You could find yourself in the blue flames, you know, of destruction, and the Lord could have mercy and bring you back. But it remains to be seen. How is this whole new world that he's coming into going to affect his spiritual judgment? You know? We'll see. We'll see. So let's see. That's pretty much it on that. Let me see what's on the comment board. All right, the brother just finished putting the rest of the verses that I had. No, this is it. Yeah, Ephesians 4. Yep, I was reading that. Ephesians 2. Let me see. Oh, you know what? Let's finish off with Psalms chapter 10. We were there anyway. So it says Psalms 10 and 8. He sitteth in the lurking places of the villages, in the secret places doth he murder the innocent. Right, because everything that's being done is as a form of destruction, whether it's spiritually or physically, for the nation of Israel. His eyes are privily set against the poor. And who do you think the poor are? The Israelites. That's why I said there's going to be a great persecution upon those that fear the Lord. He lieth in wait secretly as a lion in his den. He lieth in wait to catch the poor. He doth catch the poor when he draweth them in his net. And what is a net? A trap. And that net or that trap, comes in the form of this different information that's being pushed out there. Because like Elder Pastor Charles said in his video, he said they're not able to go back 2,000 years to get that DNA. And then, you have this whole thing about the so-called, what is that? The A1, what I can't think of the what you call it right now, the so-called DNA strain of those, the Igbo and, the other different Israelite tribes that have that one particular strain that proves that they're Israelites. Okay, well, let's say you take that test here in America, and let's say it links you to one of those tribes over there in West Africa, right? Good. That proves that you came from them. So now, what DNA sample do they have going way back to one of the patriarchs, Jacob, or to one of the 12 tribes, one of the men, Reuben or Judah or whoever, or one of the men or Israelites from back then? What DNA strand do they have to compare those DNA strands to prove that those are the Israelites, that's the strand of the Israelites? Yep, because you have Judah, Benjamin, Levi, you have all these different tribes, and this is the strand of DNA that comes from them. What do they compare it to? That's why the Apostle Paul said not to give heed to endless genealogies, because these things are going to minister questions rather than godly edifying. And in these times, the scriptures say that the spirit of matter of fact, let me get that real quick. Let's go to Romans chapter 8. 8 and 16, it says, the Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit. So what is the Spirit? This word, the Holy Spirit. It beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of the Most High. It didn't say anything about our genealogy. It didn't say anything about our DNA strand, deoxyribonucleic acid. It didn't say anything about that. It said through the Spirit. Now you have to be of the physical line, the physical seed of the nation of Israel. But now this is done through what? Through faith. Because nobody can really sit down and actually trace their line all the way back to one of the 12 tribes, the patriarchs of the 12 tribes. It's impossible. Do they have Judas Maccabee's DNA in the CDC? Or somewhere in Africa? Or somewhere in Asia or the Middle East? What about Onias III? Huh? Do they have Joseph of Arimathea's DNA somewhere? where you can compare today. Okay, if your DNA matches this sample, this strand, you are an Israelite for sure. This is why it says that we're saved by hope, by faith. All right, so going back, a net for catching of judgment of leaders leading people to sin, right? And this is what's going on. Leaders leading people to sin. You know, it says as a trap for man, right? And these traps for men are what? In the form of these different studies that are out there. You know, philosophical, religious, so on and so forth. Okay, so let's go back. When he draweth them in his net, right? And that's how they catch him. By this flawed information that's put out there, that when you try to research, you're going to be led 10 different directions. And then when you do come close to the truth, oh, that's a hoax. Or that's a plagiarism. So what's going to happen is your mind is going to be redirected somewhere else. More confusion. You know, as it says in Ephesians 4:14, that we henceforth be no more children tossed to and fro and carried about with every wind of doctrine by the sleight of men and cunning craftiness, whereby they lie in wait to deceive. And that's why it says, if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost, in whom the God of this world has blinded the minds of them which believe not. So going back to Psalms 10 and 10, he croucheth and humbleth himself, that the poor may fall by his strong ones. Because eventually, everything that we see going on is going to end in a physical altercation. It says, I was watching the movie The Purge. That second Purge, boy, that second Purge is that's a bad one right there. And pretty much when those stormtroopers pretty much rolled up in that building and were hauling Jakes out, you know, all I could think about was, you know, they shall be as madmen, sparing none, you know, but still wasting and spoiling and destroying, you know. And that's what it's going to get to eventually. And we see it approaching. So it says, he hath said in his heart, the Most High hath forgotten, he hideth his face, he will never see it. Yeah, so that's pretty much what he's doing through these decrees, this legislation, and ultimately through the disseminating of lies out there to cover up the truth. You know, yep, and like the brothers put, you know, Psalms 83, you know, matter of fact, I'm just going to read the 3rd and the 4th verse and we'll end it with that. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. Right, we're the hidden ones, especially Judah, the so-called Negroes. They are the biggest threat on this planet. That's why they're catching the most hell. That's why they're the most oppressed of the tribes of the nation of Israel. Because they're the biggest threats, because they are the leaders. They are the trendsetters. They are who the Lord said he would raise up first. And then the rest of the tribes will follow. It says they have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation. That's all these nations. And they wanted to cut us off from being a nation, and they have, because we are not recognized as the Israelites. We are not recognized as a people. You know? And anyone else that stands up for themselves are applauded. But when the so-called Negroes, the tribe of Judah, stands up for themselves and tries to elevate above the condition that they've been subjected to because of the curses, then it's a problem. Now you're a hate group. You're a black supremacist group. You know? It's all a conspiracy. A conspiracy fact, not a conspiracy theory. It's the same shit that's been done over and over again. Same playbook. It says that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. Now, can we go to a map, or can we type online Israel, and we get information about the land? You know, the map, the flag, and all that stuff. Of course, what it means that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance, upon the nation of Israel, because we were what? Dry bones in the valley. And we were very dry until the Lord woke us up and put that flesh back upon us, those sinews, that understanding, because ultimately the breath is what made us understand that we're Israelites. You see, because prior to that, you had Jake coming together, but they didn't have understanding. They didn't have, the knowledge of who they really were. They just came together because they looked like each other. They were in the same struggles. But then when it came to nationality wise, they were calling themselves Africans and all kind of other stuff, Asiatic black men and all this stuff, until the breath breathed into them and they found out that they were Israelites, particularly of the tribe of Judah or Benjamin, Levi, Simeon, Ephraim, so on and so forth. All right. So pretty much this has just been a various topics, dealing with this video I watched earlier. I put the video in the description box. Those of you that haven't seen it, you should see it. Very good video, and it just shows you, man, that the truth is getting out there. So whatever their intentions were, look, it's funny right here, between, by putting Ye and Kyrie Irving out there, whatever their intentions were of doing that, it's backfiring on them, and the truth is getting out there even more, because the elect will be sealed, and those of the nation of Israel that are not elect will be condemned. So the Lord is doing a master stroke, a master chess strategy in this whole thing that's exploding on the scene right now, with this whole controversy. So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. To the next time I say shalom.